If your 2019 to 2024 Ram 2500 is lacking in the headlight department, then the AlphaRex Nova Series LED projectors definitely warrant your attention. These give some serious lighting output and combine it with eye-catching good looks thanks to their Alpha Black inner housings, the LED projectors, and these nice new clear lenses. Plus, they've got a few clever little extras included to make for a great update to any truck. Now, if these headlights look sort of familiar, you're not mistaken and you're definitely not seeing things. These are very reminiscent of the upgraded headlights you can get on these trucks from the factory. So they're what you might classify as an OEM Plus type of upgrade because they do pay homage to that OEM type of light. But even as compared to those OEM ones, the Novas will be a nice upgrade in both lighting output and function. Surrounding the main lighting elements here, you're going to find these cool LED strips. These can be lit up your choice of amber or a diffused white, depending on what kind of look you're going for. These will function as your daytime running lights and double as your turn signals as well. Your turn signals here are also sequential, which is always just cool, even if it doesn't add anything functionally. They also feature a startup sequence, so when you unlock your truck or go to start it up, the LEDs here will do a short flashing sequence that, again, while it's not really anything functional, it just adds a nice little extra touch to the whole setup. Now, the main lighting elements are worth noting too, of course. In the center, you're going to find these 4 Ice Cube style bi-LEDs, which put out a ton of light. All 4 of them function as your high and low beams, and as they are projectors, they put out a clean, crisp white light with a wide beam pattern and a nice sharp cutoff. So these are going to far outshine your factory halogens especially, and they're going to cast a lot more light further on down the road or trail than your factory setup. And with the Alpha Black housings inside and clear lenses over top, they still give you that aggressive appearance without impacting the actual lighting output. Construction here is all pretty first rate as well, as we've come to expect from AlphaRex. The outer housings are made from polypropylene and you've got clear polycarbonate lenses over top. Now those lenses also have an anti-fogging agent and yet another coating on the outside to keep them clear in all kinds of different weather conditions, and that coating also helps prevent against fading and yellowing, so these should look good for a long time to come. Inside, these feature the Osram Olsen black flat LED chips for superior light output and longevity, and since this is a full LED setup, these are going to have a nice long lifespan and you don't have to worry about changing out bulbs. Now on the back, you're also going to find another couple of interesting bits like integrated air breathers to help prevent fogging and moisture from getting trapped inside, and you've got integrated adjusters here as well, meaning that these are also DOT, SAE, and FMV 108SS approved, making them fully street legal. As you might expect though, these do not come cheap. The set is going to run you about $1,850, and that does put them toward the top end of the category. But like with most aftermarket parts, especially lights, you get what you pay for here. And there's a lot of good stuff baked in on top of a great look. So if you're willing to shell out the cash, you want something that's going to work well and look good on your truck, these are definitely worth your attention. Installation is going to get a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should take you about 2 hours to complete. Now these will require you to do a bit of wiring for the daytime running light functions, but it's really just power and ground and a little fuse tap. Pretty straightforward, even if you haven't done much wiring before. Otherwise though, this is going to be a total plug and play operation, and really when it comes to wiring, this is small potatoes. Everything you need comes in the box, and these will bolt in place of your factory headlights as well, so this is definitely a job that you can accomplish at home. With that, let's head on out to the install bay and we'll walk you through the process step by step.
For this install, you will need a flashlight, various impacts, various size ratchets, various length extensions, 1/4 inch to 3/8 adapter if necessary, a swivel adapter, a Phillips head bit, a T15 Torx bit, shallow and deep 10mm sockets, a 10mm wrench, a clip removal tool, some panel removal tools, and a set of needle nose pliers.
What's up folks? Today we're going to be doing some headlights on our Ram, so let's get started. Alright guys, so we've got our hood open, and the first thing we need to do is remove this upper valance to access our grill mounting hardware. So we're going to grab our clip removal tool and remove all of the push clips holding this upper valance in place. So we'll start on this side and just work our way around. Now if these have never been taken off before, they're going to be pretty stiff from the factory, so just be careful not to damage them as best you can. And one thing to note, there are 2 more clips holding the rear of this cover in place, so we'll have to get those as well. And if you're vertically challenged like myself, it'll be a little bit of a reach. There's one on the intake side as well. Now we can pull this off. Set it aside. All right, so now that we have access to our upper grill mounting hardware, there is a push clip on each side directly above our headlights. So we're gonna need to remove both of those with our clip removal tool. And there is 10 millimeter screws along the grill we're gonna need to remove, not these front ones that just holds the outer trim to the inner grill piece itself. So we'll pop these clips out first. One on each side. Then we're gonna grab our 10 millimeter socket with a small extension on our impact and begin removing our hardware. We'll start on this side with our two 10s here. Set our hardware aside. Next, we're gonna also remove these forward 10 millimeter screws up front so we can remove our upper grill trim. Now, once we have these off, be able to pop our upper trim off. Set this aside. Next, we're gonna remove these lower outer trim pieces, and we're gonna grab a panel tool, and you can either tape on the sides where your paint and your chrome are, or you can use a rag like so. This is just to prevent any unnecessary scratching or anything like that. So slide this in here. These are gonna be pretty tight from the factory. Try to keep that rag or your tape behind your panel tool. So it starts to come out, you want to gently pull on that. You may even need to get a second panel tool for some extra leverage. That should pop right out. And that rag kept it nice and unscratched. Definitely use a plastic tool for this as well. That's gonna help you avoid scratching or damaging your panels. Now we'll do the same thing for the other outer trim. Now behind these trim panels on each side is gonna be two more 10 millimeter bolts that we need to remove. So we've got our 10 mil socket on our impact. We'll pop these off. Then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So now once you have those bolts out of the side, there are 5 more nuts that we need to get to. They are in between your bumper and the lower center portion of your grill. There is a stud and a nut. There's one more recessed here, in the middle, and on the edge. And then there are 2 more. If you look back in here, you can actually see the studs. They're a little bit farther down. So you will need a deep and a shallow 10 millimeter socket and a ratchet. Again, we're gonna use this rag just to cover up our chrome so we don't scratch that up. So now one thing to note is for these studs, these are slotted mounting points that have an opening on the backside of your grill mount. So you don't need to fully remove these nuts. You just need to loosen them up a good bit so you have room to wiggle the bottom of the grill out. So we'll start on the end. Kind of need to feel for that stud. Switch to our shallow. Now we'll loosen this first one up. Now we switched out to a smaller ratchet just to give us more room. Okay. Now we can move on to our middle one. Move over to our fourth. And our fifth and final bolt. So our next step is going to be to come right at the front end of our fender where it meets our bumper. We're going to have space in between here. There is a push clip and a gray 10mm screw that you're going to have to remove. You're going to see the clip, 2 paint match 10 mils, and the gray one. The gray one is what you want to get after. So we've got our clip removal tool. I'm going to pop this clip out. Be very mindful of your paint. Be very gentle when removing this. I know this is hard to see, but once you're peeking in here, it's pretty much right in front of your face. Once we've got the inner section of our clip out, get the outer part. Now that we have that out, we're gonna grab a 10mm wrench. So now we've got this 10mm all the way loose. Now we are using a closed end wrench, and that's gonna hold that screw in it. We can pull that out. Now, one thing I wanna mention, if you do wanna make this a little bit easier, you can unscrew and undo part of your fender liner to help you gain a little bit better access. Either way, it's not really too much room, but just exercise patience with it and it will come off. It's just honestly a bit annoying. So we'll go on the other side and do the same thing. Next, we can pop our lower front trim. So we're gonna pull on this outside edge gently, and we're gonna grab a panel tool, come in between our grill and our trim, just kind of pop this out, like so. We'll work our way over. Probably gonna need to do the same thing on the other side as these clips are pretty stiff. And we can set that aside. So now that we have our lower front trim off, there are 3 10mm screws on each side that we need to take off. So we've got our 10mm socket yet again. Pop those off. And we'll do the same thing for the other side. Now that we have our lower screws out, we're gonna grab our outer mounting points of our upper grill and pull up and release those from their seats. And we can remove our grill itself. So now we can access the final bolt and clip for our headlight. So this push pin, grab our clip removal tool. Sometimes it's easier just to pop the intersection all the way out. Pry that out. Once we have that off, we can undo the last 10mm bolt, because 3 out of the 4 bolts that hold the headlight in are the dual purpose bolts that also hold the grill pieces in. So we've got our 10mm socket. Undo this last bolt. So now that we have our headlight unbolted, we need to reach back and unplug it. So we'll pop this red safety tab back. Push down on our tab. And once we have it unplugged, there's also a clip holding the harness onto the headlight. You're gonna need your clip removal tool one more time. Pop that out. And we can remove our headlight. So now that we have our headlight out, we need to remove this front mounting panel that's for our trim. So we have a 10mm screw out here and 2 T15 Torx on the inside. So we've got our 10mm socket. Pop this off. And we'll grab our T15 Torx bit. We'll get these 2 out. So we have that off. We can pop our panel off and set our headlight aside. Now, once you have everything done for this headlight, you can do the same thing for the other side. Alrighty, so before we install our new headlights, we're gonna need to add in our supplied wiring harness. And to start off with that, we're gonna come to our fuse box, which is located right in front of the battery. We're gonna open that up, and that just has these 2 tabs to pop the cover back. Now you should have a fuse puller inside of your fuse box. We're gonna need that. Then we're gonna look for fuse number 65, and to make it easy, it is the one 10 amp right next to these two 30 amps. So we're gonna pop that out. Once we have this out, we can return our fuse puller. It's always good to keep that in. We're gonna come to our supplied fuse tap. It already has one 10 amp fuse in it. We're gonna add this factory 10 amp into the other slot. And we're gonna put this fuse tap right back in place where that 10 amp came out. Make sure that fully seats. And it does have enough room to go over those 30 amp fuses. And we're gonna route this down and around. Close our fuse box back up. Now, if you want a more flush fit, you could notch out your fuse box lid a little bit for this to kind of sit better. For demonstration purposes, we're not gonna do all that. And once we have that on, we need to connect our positive and negative terminals to our battery. So we'll head over to our battery now. We're gonna start by removing the positive battery terminal cover. We're gonna grab our 10 mil socket. We're gonna loosen up the pinch nut on our positive terminal. Once that's loose enough, we'll be able to slide our connector on to the stud. You wanna make sure that's fully seated. Then we'll tighten this back up. Now that we have that on, we'll come over to our negative terminal. Once again, use our 10 mil socket, and we'll loosen up our pinch nut for this terminal. Once we have that loose enough, we're gonna have to come into the side of this one. Get that seated onto our stud. Tighten that back down. Make sure your terminals are tight. You don't want them loose at all. Place that cover. Now on the other side of that harness, you're gonna have one yellow wire with a single connector plug. Both of your new headlights are gonna have these plugs, but with the length of this wire, it is most convenient to just plug it in on the driver's side of the headlight. So when you get ready to plug in your headlights, which we'll show you, you wanna plug this connector into the driver's side headlight and don't worry about the passenger side. Now you can tuck the rest of this area of the harness down around your fuse box just to get it out of the way. And you can do this however you'd like. If you wanna secure it up and tuck it or put some loom around it, kind of make it your own, you can do whatever you want. And you will have a shorter side for the driver's side headlight for this single red connector. So you want to drop that down into the headlight area. And then our longer single red connector is going to go over to the passenger side. We're going to route this right around the front of our condenser. So we've got our single wire connector over to the passenger side. Now the main thing about routing this over is to keep it out of the way of any excessively hot or moving parts of your vehicle, because that will damage the wiring and or your vehicle. So as long as it's out of the way of any of that stuff, it's fine. We'll drop this right down into our headlight area, so we'll be able to connect that. So these headlights also come with an optional feature to change your DRL and parking lights from white to amber. So we'll show you how to do that now. We're gonna need to remove this box, and there will be a connector inside. If it is unplugged, your DRL and other lights are going to be white. If you plug that in and connect the connector, you will have amber DRLs. So we'll show you how that's done now if you choose to do it. So we've got a Phillips head bit on our impact. Now you can also just use a Phillips head screwdriver. And we'll remove the 4 screws for this cover. drop them. That cover should fall right out. Inside, this is the connector you are looking for. It is a 2 gray wire connector. Now, if you want amber DRLs, you will need to plug this in. If you want white, leave it unplugged. We're gonna start ours out with white, but we'll also show you how the amber looks. So once you've done that, you can replace this cover, set it back in place, screws back in. I like to put one in the opposing corners. We'll use our Phillips head bit yet again, tighten these back up. Now you are tightening into plastic, so there's no need to overdo it. Now once you have this side done, whichever configuration you decide, you can do the same thing for the other headlight. Next, we're gonna need to install that trim panel from our factory headlight onto our new one. I'm gonna set this in place, and we can grab our 2 factory T15 Torx screws, get those on. Now once again, you're tightening into plastic, so snug is good. And we can reinstall our 10mm screw in the inner part and tighten that down with our 10mm socket. And once you have this done for this side, you can do the same thing for your other headlight. All right, so now we're ready to plug our headlights in. Now, as we mentioned before, you're gonna have these yellow single plugs on both headlights. However, you only need to connect this on the driver's side as there's only one wire. It's still gonna communicate with both headlights. So, set this in place, get our main factory connector from our body side onto our headlights. Make sure that snaps in, then you want to lock that safety tab in. And we're going to take our single red wire connector from our harness and plug that into the white wire on our headlight. Lock that in. So now we can set our headlight in place. Once we have it on, we'll grab that push pin locator first. Put that back in. Push that all the way down. Pop your pin in. Now once we have our pin in, we can reinstall our 10mm screw that's closest to it. And then we'll tighten that back down with our 10mm socket. So we've got our 10mm socket on our impact, and we'll tighten this down. Now once you've reached this point, you can repeat this process on the other side. All right, so our next step is going to be to set our grill back in place, because these top outer mounting points double as the grill and the headlight mounting points. So we'll get this in, line this back up with all of our mounting points. Make sure these sit back over those headlight dowels, like so. And then we'll get our bolts back in up top. Now we'll reinstall our 10mm bolt for the top mounting point. We'll grab our 10mm socket on our impact and tighten that down. And we'll do the same thing for the other side. So our next step is going to be to reinstall that push clip and that 10mm screw that's located inside of your fender, above your bumper. Now again, these are very difficult to see, and we're going to do the clip first. The easiest way to get this back in is to use a needle nose set of pliers. We're going to grab it on the insert. So we're going to send this in between the fender and the bumper. Now you want to be very careful getting this into position. We'll line that back up with its mounting point, work it back into position, and you can push it up into place with your pliers. Once that's in, get your insert back in. Now, Honestly speaking, this is probably more of a production point for that clip, so to be honest, it is optional to put that back in just for demonstration purposes. We're gonna reinstall that as we did, but doing this at home, you have more than enough mounting hardware without that push clip to get this back into place. So if it's something you don't want to do, it is okay, but it is good to put all your stuff back in order. So now that we have that in, we'll get that 10mm screw back in there as well. So now we've got our 10mm screw. We're gonna get this back in between our fender and bumper. Now you could go back in the way we pulled it out. It's much easier to get it out that way. Getting it in, you have two options. You can go back from the outside here. If you have like a ratchet wrench, that would be easiest. But we are also going to go underneath with a very long extension and a swivel socket with our 10mm and kind of snake it back into place. Now this is very difficult. You can't really see it. You just kind of have to feel for it. But you could go either way. If you are more comfortable with just getting it in that way with a ratchet wrench, that's fine. We're gonna go underneath with our extension and get it back into place. 10mm screw lined up and it's in its position. We'll tighten that down. Now we can get our 3 bolts in on the lower outer part of each side of our grill. Remember, our shorter ones are gonna go out here, and the 2 longer ones will go in the inner more holes. So we've got our 10mm screw, our 10mm socket. We'll get these in place. We got our longer ones. And then we can do the same thing for the other side. Next, we can begin installing our lower trim. So we'll line this back up with the locators as well as those studs that we loosened up the nuts on the uninstall. Make sure that seats back into place fully. Now we'll get our 10mm screw in the outer mounting point of our trim. So we've got our 10mm socket. And while we're over here, we'll also get this outer 10mm screw in. And we can do the same thing for the other side. Now we're gonna come in the middle of our grill and tighten down those nuts on our mounting studs for our trim. Now, just again for reference, you have one in the middle, and then you have one on each of the outsides, right about where this taper begins. Those are the ones you're gonna need your deep 10mm socket for, and then the 2 in between that, you're gonna need your shallow 10mm socket for. So we'll get to tighten these down now. Remember, you need a little ratchet for that. And these are all gonna pretty much be done by feel. Can't really see them. Get our 2 shallow ones first. Now we'll get our deep 10mm socket and get our center and outer ones. And one thing you want to keep in mind when doing this, you want to watch out, especially if you have the chrome trim like we do. You don't want to rub your ratchet all over that and scratch your chrome. These are all done by feel, so just be patient. Then you can tighten down your last one as well. Now we can reinstall our lower headlight trim, so we'll line the locators back up. Push that back into place. And do the same thing for the other side. Now we can reinstall our upper trim. So you want to make sure the edges go under the fenders, back into their locator points. Get a little tight at first. I'm going to be very gentle when putting this back into place. Now that we have that in, we'll come back and reinstall all of our screws. So now we've got our shorter 10mm screws along the trim. We got 2 out here. Got some in here. Longer ones. We're gonna go in the middle on the grill mount. We'll get all these in place first. And we'll come back with our 10 mil socket on our impact. We can reinstall our 2 small push clips over our top of our headlight. There's one on this side, and we'll do the same thing for the other side. We can get our shroud back in place. Remember, these 2 outer locators go underneath the front edge of the fender. Once you've got that in place, we'll reinstall the push clips for this. Get all our front ones installed first, so those just pop right back into place. Then we'll get the 2 in the rear in place. Then we'll get our 2 rear clips in place. Put that one in. Reach back. Get that one in. That'll do it.
That's going to wrap it up here for our review and install of the Alpharex Nova Series LED projector headlights with the Alpha Black housings and clear lenses, fitting 2019 to 2024 Ram 2500s equipped with factory halogen headlights. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, for all things Ram, be sure to keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.